You're listening to KZUM News on 89.3 KZUM Lincoln and KZUM HD. Good afternoon and welcome to today's edition of KZUM News, an hour dedicated to learning more about what is going on in Lincoln and the surrounding areas. I am the news director and your host, Amantha Dickman. And thank you for tuning in. The Lincoln City primary election is Tuesday, April 8th, and gives Lincoln residents the opportunity to narrow down candidates for several city council, airport authority, and school board positions in preparation for the Lincoln City general election on Tuesday, May 6th. And because that election isn't too far away, we are starting our candidate coverage this afternoon. Joining us for the top of the hour is Andrea Evans, candidate for the Board of Education seat for District 3. Thank you for joining us today, Andrea. We're super excited to sit down with you ahead of the primary election on April 8th. Tell me, are you excited? We're a couple weeks out.
Very excited to go ahead and get the win for the general. I'm quite excited. I can't wait.
And how many people are you facing off again for this election?
Two,
the
incumbent, and then I believe another person who's a man. I don't know him.
Mm-hmm. So you haven't had a chance to speak with your opponents?
Two. Well, I got to see one of them, the new one. He came to a LPS event that they did for candidates, and I only got to hear him say his name and what district, but he didn't say much more. He's in his 20s, upper 20s. I know that. I do know the incumbent. We're friends, and she's been in for 20 years now.
That must make for quite a conversation since you're friends. Have you been kind of tossing around ideas about your platforms and how you compare to each other, or, kind of crowd sharing ideas as you talk about your stance compared to hers?
Together.
Mm-hmm.
I know some of the things that she stands for. If I'm not mistaken, I believe she wanted to remove school resource officers, and my stance is different. To me, student and school safety is top priority because we have to focus on ensuring the safety of all students, faculty, and staff. We need to take all school shooting threats seriously to prevent them from becoming a reality. And I would like to see us require all student resource officers to take behavioral threat assessment training, beta training. Officers will be trained in mental health assessments and will work closely with school counselors, mental health practitioners, and social workers. I think that's important. And I know by talking with parents that they want to send their children to school safe, and they want them to come home pretty much the same way they sent them to school, safe. I did take the data training myself, so I got the opportunity to train with different officers like State Patrol and the police department from across Nebraska, as well as mental health practitioners. I am out here doing the work. I'm out here engaging with the community, which I intend to serve, and I do that every day.
So you talk about how school safety is one of your biggest points. You've gone through this training yourself that you want to make a part of the school resource officers. How would you describe that training for parents who are curious about what that might look like for the school resource officers?
It was wonderful because I get I received the opportunity to connect with school resource officers, state patrol, police, Lincoln Police Department officers were there too. Um, and then we're connecting with mental health practitioners. And what I loved about it, it wasn't just all about, well, it wasn't just all about mental health. It was also about reaching youth who may be at risk or in poverty or of color. They're very mindful of that. I mean, these are trainings that are taking place. So they have mental health practitioners come in and train us on how to de-escalate, a situation that may be taking place. And instead of looking at these students as, well, you're going to jail, they pretty much work hard to meet them where they're at and not to escalate anything, and to try to get them the mental health assistance that they need. I thought that was fabulous because, since COVID, youth have been traumatized because we had COVID and then we had George Floyd happen during this time. And I'm sure that a lot of students who are white, they didn't understand the Black Lives Matter. I say all lives can't matter until Black Lives Matter, is how I say it. I try to make sure that going to this beta training would give me the information I needed to be able to move forward when I become elected as a school board participant. Yeah, I think they're on the right track. I believe they're on the right track. I know that the incumbent, she speaks about the school to prison pipeline. She's not very clear on what she's doing with it. She just stated in a newspaper article about that was one of the things that she was working on. When it comes to that, I feel that we have so many nonprofits out here, and I've worked at Boys and Girls Club, I've worked at the Lighthouse, I've worked at Clyde Malone Center. When the O Street wreck was here, it was like the F Street wreck. I worked there. So I'm out here and I'm doing work, with youth and families. And I think that it's important for us to do what's necessary so there is no such thing for our youth here in Lincoln with the school to prison pipeline. Now, I know that there are resources, and I just named the places I worked at. I know the Lighthouse makes sure that they are helping students graduate, and that increases each year. They have a wall with all their graduates, not even a wall, it's probably two or three walls now. Um, and to me, that cuts out that school to prison pipeline. When you have organizations, and I have one too, it's a nonprofit called Our Dream Achievers Art and Science Program, making sure that students know what they want to do. And if they don't, let's explore it. And I utilize assessments to make sure that it helps them to look at, what their personality, what type of careers that they could fit into. And so I think And I believe that when you have nonprofits working with the school system, we can alleviate we can alleviate that school to prison pipeline. And I'm a person of color saying that. It's like saying, families saying, "Oh, it's a generational curse." Well, if you feed that, that's what it's going to be. So we don't feed that. What we're feeding is no, it's not going to be a school to prison pipeline. It's going to be a school to success pipeline and not prison pipeline. So everything that we can do to make sure that that doesn't happen, that's what I'm here to do.
So there's two questions that I have based on that. You went through this training, and I'm so glad that you thought it was a fantastic training. I do know that there are folks out there who have concerns about having resource officers in schools and the potential role that they play with targeting marginalized folks in education systems. Do you feel like the training addressed that properly that you experienced?
Yes, because while I was there, I made sure that, if we were talking about implicit bias, I wanted them to make sure that everyone in the room knew what that meant. They're covering those things. It made me feel more comfortable. See, when you go and investigate stuff instead of just believing this is what it is, I'm the person that's about action and making a difference. So when I was at the training, what I saw were nice officers and I was the social butterfly. So what they did, they allowed me to sit at different tables every day. So I got to interact with them, and they were very welcoming to me. And I felt that if we have them beta trained, that's going to help alleviate that discrimination that you speak about.
Absolutely. And then the other thing you mentioned, you talked about several nonprofits that LPS already has working relationships with, and the role that plays in also alleviating that school to prison pipeline. There we go. Sorry, my brain just fritzed out of it. That school to prison pipeline, and would you be looking at building those relationships out more, looking at other potential means of getting those children, vocational training that might potentially help guide their path in the future and steer them away from that school to prison pipeline?
Yes, I know that that's definitely it's a reality right now. It takes a whole village to rear our children. We are the village. It's our responsibility to make sure that there's no discrimination when officers are in the school with our children. We have the responsibility to make sure that we can just knock out the idea of school to prison pipeline. It's our responsibility to make sure that these things don't take place. And I think the nonprofits definitely are a wonderful buffer and partnership with Lincoln Public School System. That's a part of the village's responsibility. And I'm seeing it happen. I'm seeing that they're taking the responsibility. There's a lot of nonprofits around here that do, and many of them are owned by people of color. And those are the very nonprofits that are working to make sure that the rates of graduation stay up. Because trust me, I don't believe that one system can do it on their own. It's going to take all of us to do it. I'm the person that if I find out there's something going on that's biased or discriminatory or looking like a prison to school pipeline, a school to prison pipeline, excuse me, um, I'm the one that can pull the people together and we'll stand against it. We'll fight it. I grew up with officers doing outreach. They were doing community outreach so much greater then. And my grandmother used to be a caterer. She fed a lot of them. So when Tom Cassidy, he was a beat officer, and Officer Pashong, those officers, they moved up over the years. And Tom Cassidy, he became chief of police. So we had already built those relationships.
Mhm.
I'm going to give you an example. One night, there was an event here in Lincoln, and on 27th Street at Walgreens, there was a shooting that happened. And the police were hollering at the boys because they're screaming after being shot at. And whoever was in the car with them, which was a relative, you could tell he was deceased. But I could see from afar how the officers were handling those black males. They were hollering at him. You could see that they were physically being like control. They wanted control, and they might have felt threatened. So I pulled over, walked up, and I said, "Excuse me," to the officers. I'm not trying to cause a problem. I'm just trying to make sure that this doesn't escalate, because I know that they're moving around, these men who happen to be black males, and I saw the way that you were handling them. I need you to understand. You see that boy sitting in the car over there? He looks like he's deceased, but they're not grasping that right now. Kinda. That's why they're screaming and hollering, but not to threaten you, because this is how they're feeling. They don't know if he's even alive. So why don't you please go check? And if you want to make sure I'm a safe person, call Tom Cassidy, and he'll tell you that I'm just trying to help. They were open to me helping. They didn't rush me off. They didn't tell me I was involved in, trying to hold up their investigation. They allowed me to help them. So they went to the car and they confirmed that the person in the car was deceased. While he was doing that, I was talking to the boys. And I said, "Look, they feel threatened. You're black males, and they want to control the situation. So I know you're emotional and you're traumatized. You just got shot at. Could you just please sit on the curb right here?" And they did. And the officer's gonna go find out if your family member's deceased or not. And he came back to me and said, "Yeah, he's deceased." So I let them know. And I let the officer know they're probably gonna, scream and grieve now. They're in shock. And that whole situation ended well. It could have ended a lot worse than it did. I feel that I really helped that situation by pulling up and taking responsibility as a villager to say, "Hey, try to understand what's happening here, officers, and let's not just jump the gun and look at it like they're a danger to you, because they're not. They just got shot at.
Mhm.
They're in shock, trying to help them to understand." So I was kind of like that mental health practitioner, but a villager. I do have a bachelor's degree in social work, and I am a generalist practitioner. And so it worked out well. I know that we could work with our officers, and I did it on the street when usually somebody walking up to a situation like that, I know what they're going to do. They're going to tell you, "No, you need to back up. This is our investigation." But they didn't do that. They were willing to call Tom Cassidy and know that I was a safe person and that I was just trying to help, and they allowed me to. So I believe that we can continue this even in our school system with our social workers, counselors, and mental health practitioners.
Absolutely.
So
And
I believe in it. I believe in it. I believe it could be okay. You know what I mean?
I do. And you talk about responsibilities that we have to our children. I think a good majority of the public would agree with you that we have responsibilities. Safety is one that you've already outlined quite a bit. Community leadership is another one. Um, can you talk about your plans for addressing staff shortage? I know LPS is currently facing some of those staffing problems within their system, and how that plays a role in, our responsibility to these kids in our school system.
One of our priorities with this campaign is addressing staffing shortages. Um, and that would entail improving recruitment efforts by expanding the candidate pool, create positive work environments by prioritizing teacher mentorship, alleviating workloads, and providing robust professional development opportunities. Focus on faculty and staff retention by offering competitive salaries and support systems, and monitor data on teacher vacancies and staffing turnover to identify special areas of need. Now, when I went to the event that LPS gave, which was a Citizens Academy for um, candidates, um, I asked about staffing shortages, and I knew that there was a staffing shortage, especially in special education. But I also found out that there are staffing shortages in math and science as well. So we have to be able to open up the recruitment pool and give more people an opportunity to become educators. Maybe there's a way that they can try to look at hiring more people of color and doing a study, maybe to see how we can go about doing that. I feel that we can also have help assistants in the classroom, paras. They had the grandmothers, the grandparents program. I think that, if we pull those things together, um, we can help alleviate staffing shortages. We have to be open to letting more people get in. It seems to be a system that, I've met a lot of people who they're educators and then their children become educators, and it's kind of in the family. Let's open it up a bit to Paris. I know that you have to have a master's degree. Let people earn it while they're an educator. I think that those are some things that we could look at. And, as a community's responsibility, honey, I'm old school. So if it's about money, let's start getting out there selling some dinners or, doing fundraisers together as a community to raise the money to try to help with financing more educators.
And then we've talked about several very serious conversations about how we can improve our school systems this afternoon. We have a couple more minutes left here before we have to take
Okay.
our mid-hour break. Before we go, I'm going to ask you a less serious question. What is your favorite part about being a community leader?
Helping people. And when I go out in the community, they, I could be in the store, anywhere. I'm well known, and it's beautiful when people come up to me and say, Andrea, thank you so much for what you do for our community. They know that I love them. And I tell you, honey, they call me like I'm the mayor. They do. I mean, because they know that I'm going to be the one to help them to navigate through whatever challenges within the system because I have 7 children. It's bigger than me. And then when they see me helping my students, well, then they'll come and ask for help too to navigate through things. I just think it's important for us as a village to really come together more. There could be more parent engagement taking place with our school system, but we have to be able to communicate with people well.
And as part of that communication plan, how do you think that you could better facilitate that communication between our school systems, our students, their parents, and your role as a school board participant?
Continue what I'm doing. Continue staying engaged and involved in the community in the capacity that I am, making sure, I mean, they already know they can come to me, right? So they're coming to me. I go sit in on disciplinary actions and bullying and things like that that's happening with students, to make sure that parents have someone there that they feel comfortable to help them to advocate for their students. I was a parent connector with UNL and Origins of Behavioral Health, and then I became a trainer. So I'm well versed about parent, youth, and school engagement. It's important. I went into a situation where it was disciplinary, and one of the administrators said to the family, your daughter, they don't want her back. That's horrible. Now, and I let him know, you could have said that differently, you know? And they thought about it. He thought about it. And then he said, yeah, I could have told her, well, you know, the reason we're here and what she did. And this is why we have to do it this way, and let her know that she can move her way back into her school system by way of restorative practices. And they said they have that. So when I'm talking with this parent, it looks like things were moving smoothly to get her back to her home school. So, yes, we have to be able to communicate better. You don't sit there and tell a family and a student that they're not wanted. That's not acceptable. You have to communicate better. You have to be willing and able to.
And then as we wrap up this afternoon, I know we've talked about a lot of things. You probably will have to take a minute to think about it if there's anything you would like to add this afternoon that we
I
haven't
just
talked
want
about.
people,
Oh, sorry.
that's okay. I just want people to know that I'm also standing on broader vocational opportunities, looking to cultivate apprenticeship opportunities for students. We want to provide career academy experiences for all levels. They have an AVID program, but it only reaches so many students. So we want to broaden that. Um, we want to make sure to utilize the village as our resource to rear children to greatness, because community village centered leadership is what I'm about. We also want to make sure students have free breakfast and lunch for all students, because it's going to increase the overall health, well-being, and school attendance by offering free breakfast and lunch to all students, I believe. And, you know, some parents who have money, you know, and make good money, they could be a dollar over, and that's going to kind of be a hardship for them, right? So we don't want anyone to have a hardship. We don't want anyone to feel inadequate or like they're not worthy to have free lunch. They should be providing it, and breakfast. They should be providing it. So those are the other priorities that we stand on.
All right. And those are five great pillars to have under your belt there.
Thank you.
Yeah. Thank you again for joining us this afternoon, Andrea, to talk about the upcoming primary election. We look forward to following up with you after April 8th.
Well, I look forward to it too. And thank you so much, Amantha. I appreciate you for having me on today. And if you have any questions, hey, just let me know.
Once again, that was Andrea Evans, one of the candidates for the Board of Education seat from District 3. We're going to take our mid-hour break. When we return, news intern Rebecca Ford is sitting down with another candidate for the same seat, Barbara Beyer, to discuss her platform priorities. We will be right back.
Support for KZUM comes from Lincoln Pharmacy, a local neighborhood pharmacy located at 33rd and A Streets, offering medication therapy management, adherence packaging, medical supplies, prescription delivery, COVID and flu vaccines, and more. Open Monday through Friday from 8:30 a.m. to 6 p.m. and Saturdays from 10 till 4. More information is available at lincoln-rx.com.
And by
Support for KZUM comes from No Coast Roller Derby, a skater-owned and operated nonprofit organization since 2005. The next home game of the 2025 season is Saturday, May 24th at the Lincoln Sports Foundation Complex at 7600 North 70th Street. Doors open at 4 and the first bout starts a little after 5 p.m. Tickets and more information are available at No.
And by
El Centro de las Americas, presenting the 18th annual fundraising event, Wine, Chocolate, and Tango, on Friday, April 18th from 6 to 11 p.m. at the Cornhusker Marriott. The Lincoln Tango Club will perform during dinner, which includes a full meal with sides and 3 courses of paired wines and chocolates, along with a silent auction and El Centro Market. All proceeds benefit El Centro and the community members they support. Further details and tickets are available online at elcentrone.org.
Life-saving blood is a gift only volunteer donors can give. Right now, Nebraska Community Blood Bank needs you to donate blood. Visit ncbb.org today to schedule your donation.
Welcome back to KZUM News. My name is Rebecca Ford, KZUM's news intern, and I will be your host for the remainder of this episode. This afternoon, we're looking to speak with candidates running for the Lincoln Public School District 3 seat in the upcoming April 8th primary election. Before the break, we spoke with grassroots candidate Andrea Evans about her plans, policy, and platform. Now, we'll be sitting down with incumbent Barbara Beyer about her goals as she campaigns for her 6th term. We are about a week out from those the primary elections. That said, can you just sort of tell me how you're feeling about where you're at and how things have been going with your campaign so far?
Well, the campaign's been going very well. I've had a lot of interaction with constituents in subdistrict number 3, and we've been talking about the issues. And the issue these days is the concern that the Trump administration is taking federal funds away from public education. That will impact Lincoln Public Schools. We estimate maybe $67 million worth of lost possible funding in areas such as Indian education, extra funding for what we call Title I schools, which are schools that serve low-income areas, monies for training teachers, the food and nutrition programming, our after school and before school programming through the community learning centers, and much more.
Right. And were any of those issues things that you expected before running for your term? And how does that tie in with your current campaign platform?
Well, everybody knew that Trump had gotten elected. I'd have to say that when I announced was before he was inaugurated. I would say that no one expected the depth and a range of the cuts that are now before us. So yes, that's a bit of a surprise. As for my campaign issues, I do think that they continue to be quite pertinent because another thing the Trump administration is doing is trying to erase all kinds of diversity, equity, and inclusion, which goes against existing law passed by Congress and even Nebraska's Constitution that goes states that education will be provided to all children in the state. And so my campaign issues have been and continue to be continued advocacy for all students, inclusive of the LGBT, lesbian, gay, bisexual, transgender, and minorities, so that they can reach their potential. Address teacher need for respect and support, create opportunities for interested people to become a part of education, a career in education, and then address the increased mental health needs among our students.
Right, yes. And with specifically going back to your point about how these marginalized students are currently experiencing an increase of attention, a lot having to do with recent policy changes or anticipated policy changes, how do you plan to continue that advocacy for students?
Will continue to advocate and support existing state and federal law. The civil rights legislation in 1964 and 65 clearly state that we are to go and have a level and equal playing field for everyone, including minorities of color. And over the decades, that would be 6 decades, 60 years of this legislation standing. There have been many court decisions, including Supreme Court decisions, that include the LGBT community, that strengthen law and procedures in the judiciary, going and protecting women and minorities from on-the-job harassment, and that includes classrooms. There's been other legislation like the IDA Act, which is specifically to educational entities to go and make sure that we are educating our kids that need special education. And I would like to add that the majority of special education students end up, after they get the supports they need, being totally mainstreamed in our classrooms, graduating on time with a diploma like everyone else, and go forward to post-secondary education job training. In fact, most people would never know most of our special education students have needs somewhere along the way. It could be a speech impairment when they're younger. It could be dyslexia. It could be all sorts of different things that we go and address. And that is ensured to us through the IDA legislation on the congressional level.
Right, and I'm sure a lot of those issues can be tied into support from another one of your campaign issues, discussing the crisis in the field of education and supporting teacher needs for support. Can you discuss a little bit more about that point and how you plan to provide teachers that support and address teacher needs?
That's always been an ongoing concern, but since the pandemic, it's become more vital. Unfortunately, there are many different areas of government, including our own state legislature, where elected officials have attacked our education professionals as being inadequate. And I beg to differ. They're miracle workers is what they are. But the problem is that many of our young families in Nebraska, in Lincoln, and throughout the country are struggling with issues such as affordable housing and the lack of it, going and being able to get jobs that support their families so that they can go and be the good parents that we know they can be. So when we talk about teachers who are struggling, they're facing not just a day of trying to get the kids to listen and respond to education, but they have to deal with kids that are not ready to learn because they're hungry, because they're not housed, because they have inadequate clothing, just a myriad of issues. Now, at Lincoln Public Schools, we live in a wonderful community called Lincoln, Nebraska. We have a foundation for Lincoln Public Schools. We have donors that come forward and help our social workers go and help families that are in crisis with things like rent and utilities. We have social workers that connect them to services in the community and we have counselors that provide connections and sometimes direct counseling for mental health needs among our students. This really helps our teachers because then the children that are in their classrooms are ready to learn. But we do mentoring with our teachers. We do instructional coaching with our teachers. We go and have opportunities for them to have mental health supports. We also have things like extra duty stipends for substitute teachers who are coming in and relieving our teachers who need to take a break in our lower schools that serve lower income neighborhoods and have more pressing issues. We go and work with our teachers union to go and make sure that we have adequate competitive compensation, that we have adequate and competitive health care benefits. So our teachers really are the core of our business. But that doesn't mean that our other staff, our support staff, are important because it takes a whole team, just like it takes a whole community to teach kids, to educate our kids, to make sure our kids succeed. So we try to offer competitive benefits and salaries to bus drivers, custodians, nutrition assistants, you name the gamut. We try to be a good employer, and that's key.
Right. It's very clear to me that you're very passionate about this. I mean, this is your sixth term, or you're running for your sixth term for the Lincoln Board of Education right now. And you discussed that Lincoln, Nebraska is a great community. What is it about Lincoln that that inspires you? What inspires you to make changes and run for these positions? And why do you think this position will be helpful in impacting the community here?
Well, originally, many, many years ago, I came to Lincoln from a farming community in northeast Nebraska called Bloomfield. I came from a dairy farm. I came here to go to the university to gain my education, and I discovered a very welcoming community. I discovered a community that is rich in nonprofits and people who care. I discovered a community that has many faith-based institutions, and many of those faith-based institutions are very involved in going and helping low to moderate income families succeed, to address some of the hard issues like homelessness and domestic violence. A lot of, for instance, domestic violence services for the whole state of Nebraska originated here in Lincoln, Nebraska, maybe about 40 years ago. And that's huge. Those kinds of interventions and nonprofits have just strengthened over the years, and they're important to the fabric of the community and making the community function as well as it does. Lincoln is blessed in being a very middle-class community, and a lot of that's attributable to the fact that we care about our neighbors. We care about our friends and family, and we give them a lending hand. Originally, when I went to run for this position 20 years ago, I had 12 years experience working for a place called Lincoln Action Program. It's now called the Community Action Partnership of Lancaster and Saunders counties. And they have, since the mid 60s, go and talk about go and address issues like homelessness, affordable housing, helping kids succeed in school, just a huge amount of good work that they do. including early Head Start and Head Start, allowing families to be able to go out and work.
Right. Um, and discussing some of your previous experiences, you obviously have some history informing a lot of your platform and your decisions. In the time we have left, I would just be interested in knowing how you would describe your previous terms, how your policies have changed. How has your most recent term been going? What are some barriers you faced, and how do you expect to overcome them?
Well, my first term, my campaign in both my first few years were kind of contentious because I am Nebraska and Lincoln's first openly lesbian, gay, bisexual, transgender elected official. And that took a lot of people getting to know me and my community. And once those kinds of relationships were established, we were able to work together towards common goals. And one of those common goals is making sure that education is available and accessible to all children, including the LGBT community and minorities of color. And so that has been a passion for me. And each term has had a different issue. Some of my proudest things is getting the all means all plan established, and also going in and LPS for the Safe and Successful Schools initiative.
Right. Well, thank you very much. Right before we wrap up, I just wanted to go ahead and ask, do you have anything else you'd like to share with our listeners about this upcoming election, about yourself, about your policies? Anything you'd like to share before we leave?
Well, I just really would reiterate that I think it's important that we have consistency on the board. We will have 3 new members, and I welcome them, whoever they may be. And I think it's important that our ethic as a board of trying to reach consensus and respecting each other's opinions. And once we've taken a vote, if we're not even on the winning side, that we will honor what our board has decided and work together towards common goals needs to happen. And I do feel as though I'm in a position to be able to mentor our new board members in that particular value, which I think helps all of Lincoln.
Absolutely. Well, thank you so much for your time today, Barbara. I had an amazing conversation, and I appreciate it. We just finished speaking with incumbent Barbara Beyer regarding her policies, platforms, and her takes on some of Lincoln Public Schools' most pressing problems as she runs for Lincoln Public Schools District 3 seat in the upcoming primaries.
Thank you, Rebecca. We've had 2 of the 3 candidates for the Board of Education seat from District 3 join us today. Seth Duncan, the 3rd candidate running for this seat, unfortunately couldn't join us due to scheduling conflicts. However, folks can check out his campaign website at sethduncanforboardoфeducation.com to learn more about his educational policies.
This past weekend, the Paranormal Cirque came back into Lincoln for the first time in 2025. The performance, a fusion between circus, theater, and cabaret, stopped by from April 4th to the 7th. We spoke with cast director and performer Yuri Belaus to learn more about the performance and the work that goes into it.
Woo! All right, you are on mic, so.
Okay, perfect. Could you just let me know how you got into this business?
All right.
Take 3.
No, you are good to go.
You're good to go.
All right.
You're good to go.
We all used to be a professional gymnast. When I was 5, my parents took me to the gym. And afterwards we were like, okay, what to do? By the end of our professional career, let's say. And we decided, okay, let's try something else. Circus, why not?
Ran away.
Pretty much that's it.
Yeah, ran away and joined the circus.
Yep. Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. And how long, you've been a gymnast for a very long time, how long have you been doing this particular work?
Since 2010. 15 years.
Yeah, that takes a lot of time, a lot of skill. What does your day look like? How do you prepare for something like this?
In the morning we wake up, routine stuff, and then before the show, almost every single day we set up, practice, rehearsing, and then we play the show.
Gotcha. And with your group, did you all come from, you said it was Belgium?
Belarus.
I'm sorry
we're all
about
from
that.
Belarus.
Yes, all the acrobats?
All gymnasts, and we all can you believe it, we're all from the same gym.
Really?
We're all different ages, but at some point we all compete together, so we're from the same gym.
Very interesting. So this has been something that's a group you've been hanging on to for a very long time.
Oh yeah, sometimes it's tricky, I want to see this guy anymore. Or next day, okay, we're cool.
Right, and so how would you describe that group dynamic?
What did I say last time? I'm just kidding. I mean, we're always looking forward. We never looking back. We never turn around, like straight forward.
Right. And how did you hear about the Paranormal Circ?
Oh, that's a good one. It's been a while ago, so probably the circus agency. They found. So we used to be a part of one of the circus agency in Europe, and that's how we linked.
Very nice. And do you see yourself going far in this industry, like continuing for a long time? Where do you see yourself going?
Well, I'm 33. I wish so. I hope so, but you never know.
Yeah, right. Just how would you address some of the danger of the work you do?
I mean, we used to it. There's no more danger.
Right.
There's no danger anymore. No, it's just practicing, dedication. Yeah. It's like you walk on the streets. I mean, it's selfish a little bit, but yeah, that's true. Reality.
Right. Yeah, and practice makes perfect. So when it comes to just some of those other acts are very dangerous and very scary to be watching. So especially with that.
The Wheel of Death is damn scary. It's dangerous. Yeah.
Oh
that's
yeah,
true.
Definitely. And
but same thing for him. It's nothing special, right?
Right.
Because he used to it.
Yeah, just another day at the job.
Yep.
On that note, how often do you practice to become so comfortable with it?
Every single day, almost. All right. 3 times a week, 4 times a week.
That's a pretty good amount, for sure. And for you, is the work you do, is it just a job, or is it something more? How do you feel about the work you do?
I love it. I dedicate all my life to it, so I'm still enjoying it.
Absolutely. Well, that's all the questions I have. Thank you so much for meeting with me. I do have one more question. About the paranormal maze. That was something we used to have.
Yes.
I would love to hear more about that.
We're working on it. It's
We're
coming
working
back
on
soon.
it. Very exciting.
Yeah, because it's one of the creepiest part of the show.
Mm-hmm. Very interactive.
Before the actual show, yeah.
Mm-hmm. That's super exciting. Something to look forward to. Before we go, I just want to give you the chance if you have anything you'd like to say about yourself, the show, what you're doing. We'd love to hear it.
All right. We all would love to see you guys watching the show. So we're selling fast. Come to see us here in Lincoln, Nebraska, right? We're here till April 7th. I'm sorry. We're selling fast, and after that we're heading to Omaha, Nebraska. So come to see us. We have ticket office on the site. If you'd like to get your tickets online, go to paranormalcirc.com. Pretty much that's it.
Amazing. Well, thank you so much. I appreciate it.
That was Yuri Belaus discussing performance with the Paranormal Circ. The Paranormal Circ's next stop will be in Omaha from April 11th to the 14th and in Norfolk from April 18th to the 21st. You can find more ticket information at paranormalcirc.com.
We are fast approaching the end of the hour, so here are your reminders for today. The KZUM Newsroom is always open to hearing about any questions, concerns, suggestions, or even any story ideas that you might want to share with us. All you have to do is give us a call at 402-474-5086, extension line 6. If you give us a call and we aren't available, don't forget to leave a voicemail. Or, if you aren't much of a phone person, you can also find our social media handles and more newsroom information at kzum.org under that About tab. Speaking of our website, if you happen to miss a show, you can always head to the KZUM News tab, where we archive all of our shows and include a transcript with links to that day's content. And lastly, I just want to give a shout out to Jack Rodenberg of the Rodenberg Music Experience. He put together all of the amazing original music that our news program uses. So once again, thank you, Jack. That wraps up our reminders for now. As you head out into the world, I hope you have a lovely day. Thank you for listening, and we hope you'll join us next time. You just finished listening to KZUM News, an original production of KZUM Radio that airs every Saturday at 11 a.m. Coming up next is Beta Radio, so stay tuned.